Welcome everyone to the Food Bank of the Southern Tier's quarterly partner education webinar. It's the last one of the year. Curious if all of you have attended one or not. I would say raise your hand if it's your first, just so we can welcome you and give you a virtual round of applause. Carmen, it's really great to see you in this space. Looking forward to catching up. Welcome. And this quarterly partner education webinar is covering community empowerment. It's something that's very near and dear to our heart. It's also a topic that we are working on alongside everyone else. So we're hoping that this presentation and conversation is rich and a great learning experience for all of us. So, as you know, if you have been coming to our partner webinars this year, we've been pairing the webinar topic with an impact grant. And the reason that we're doing that is to ensure that you have a chance to kind of practice what you learn and put some of the learnings into action at your pantry. So as you might remember, the February webinar was increasing access with client-centered services, was kind of our kickoff. The May webinar was on trauma-informed care. The August webinar was on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the emergency food space. I know Amanda's going to give an update later, but there's some great impact grants going right now around culturally relevant and dietarily relevant foods along with home deliveries. And here we are in November talking about community empowerment with a grant associated that Amanda will cover later in the presentation. As a review, our values are integrity, respect, caring, learning, inclusion, and abundance. And this is really important for us. It's something that we're striving to kind of connect to all of the work that we're doing to just ensure that we are practicing all of these values as partners to all of you and obviously to our communities that we serve. So I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay, and she is going to run through the agenda.
Thanks, Sarah. So our roadmap for today, we're going to talk about what community empowerment actually is, what the food bank's been doing in this realm, what we hope to do, go over the results of the survey that y'all took in regard to community empowerment, talk about some ideas of what to potentially implement at your agency, and what the impact grant that pertains to this topic is going to be covering and available for. And then we'll jump into group discussion and just see if there's any questions and ideas that we can get flowing before we wrap up for today. So just to reintroduce ourselves, myself and Jackie are going to be helping out a lot today because this is our area of work. So I'm Lindsay Lyman. I'm the Community Empowerment Manager for the Food Bank of the Southern Tier. I've been working here 9.5 years. Some of y'all may remember me from my early days when I started off in agency services back in 2014, and I'll be coming up on that 10-year anniversary this winter. So really glad to be working with y'all on this work again and be back connected with the agencies and program partners. And I'll let Jackie introduce herself.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm Jackie Bogart, Community Empowerment Coordinator at the Food Bank. I've been here 2 years now, last month. I was here previously as AmeriCorps Vista and graduated from the Speakers Bureau back in 2016 or 17-ish, one of those. But yeah, happy to be here.
Great. And before we jump into the content for today, we are going to kick it off with a poll. So you should have a screen popping up momentarily that has these questions on there. So first of all, how are you currently getting feedback from clients? If you are, there's a couple of options there. Maybe you're doing surveys or a comment box or just having, conversations, focus groups, etc. So you can let us know there if you are getting feedback, how you're doing that. And then second, are you finding that you're able to incorporate the feedback that you do receive? Sometimes that's the next challenging step. So you can let us know how that's going. And then finally, do you share volunteer opportunities that you have available with your clients? So just take a moment to answer those and we will see the results. So how are you currently getting feedback? We had a lot of folks saying that they're doing informal conversations, which is wonderful. It's a great way to gain context and get a little more information than you would from, something that's only written. So that's great. Some folks are doing surveys if you have a comment box, or one person had a focus group. So that's exciting. We'll talk more about those opportunities during the course of the webinar. Do you incorporate client feedback? Got almost a 50-50 split on yes and sometimes. So that's positive, and we know that can be, depending on what the feedback is, you may or may not want to incorporate it, but good to know. And do you share volunteer opportunities? We've got, mostly positive, yes, and sometimes. Some folks saying they don't need more volunteers, which we understand. So we'll get more in depth into, what we recommend or what we've tried out on these kinds of things as we go throughout the course of the webinar. And then if you have questions or want to, share some ideas at the end, we have time for that as well.
What exactly do we mean when we say community empowerment? You'll find as we move through today's webinar, the topics we've already covered this year in our previous webinars all fall under this umbrella. The Food Bank recently crafted our Community Empowerment Commitment, which states, "We recognize that people with lived experience of food insecurity are experts on this issue, and their voice is crucial to creating solutions. We commit to creating pathways for people facing hunger to be informed and involved decision makers. We also commit to engaging our network in public policy advocacy to address threats to food security." As you can see, this begins to get into the why and the how of this work from our perspective. Perhaps you've seen this at your own agency or program, that the people who are experiencing the issue, of course, know quite a lot about it. Sometimes more or different crucial information than others who have not experienced it, but are still working to help solve it. We define community empowerment as the process of building capacity of a community to have increased control over their lives. It's also part of our philosophy that this is a process and we are learning. We know that we'll make mistakes and we want to learn with you, all of us together. From the perspective of a pantry partner, the food bank is tracking metrics related to collaborations with other agencies to reach underserved populations, partner participation in civic engagement trainings, partner participation in advocacy, and also client engagement, which we'll dive more deeply into. It's important to recognize the expertise of people who have lived through the experience of food insecurity to engage with them as valuable assets in the fight to end hunger. Traditionally, decision makers were mostly made up of what we refer to as content experts, or those with the technical knowledge and data, etc. These folks would make the plans and decisions, and then look to who we sometimes refer to as context experts, those with lived experience in the issue, for buy-in on the decision that was already made before it was brought to them. The new way of doing things requires us to invite content or traditional experts and context experts to the decision-making table to create plans and make decisions together that we all take ownership of. This is the best way to not only recognize the expertise someone who has lived through the issue has on it, but also to make sustainable solutions that will work for everyone. You can think of content experts as people who have a lot of knowledge on the topic and can sketch out the bones of an issue, if you will, and the context experts contextualize or color in that information. If you have questions on this concept, please jot it down and we can discuss at the end. We also work on this issue in this way because we know that hunger is not a standalone issue that is solved just by getting food into the hands of those who need it. To create sustainable long-term solutions, we need to recognize food insecurity as a complex social issue, which needs to be addressed in 3 ways: economic success, social capital, and having a place in the community. You'll see in the highlighted sections here, we want folks to move from feeling isolated to being connected, from being stigmatized as a taker to being welcomed as a contributor. Like any big change in our ways of thinking and doing, there's of course a spectrum here. So we can think of our engagement with clients as being on a continuum where we start off getting feedback from clients through things like interviews and focus groups, then begin to consult clients about our operations and decisions, and move into partnership or low-level leadership by having some more ongoing consultation, and then hiring, if you will, either the food bank hiring staff with lived experience or agencies bringing on volunteers with lived experience, and then getting into that higher engagement of organizational leadership, serving on the board of directors or whatever advisory group you have for your agency. Right now, we would say that the food bank is about here. We do a little bit in these higher levels, but we're working to move ourselves up this continuum as we hope those in our network will be working towards as well. So what is the food bank doing in this arena? We have created and hired a community empowerment coordinator, which is Jackie Bogart's position. We have prioritized client communications internally, including a Get Involved section on our Find Food page. We're in the beginning phases of a client-facing and client-created newsletter. We have a biannual client survey. We have client focus groups and listening sessions, which has become a lot more prevalent in our work since 2015. And we also have our Community Advocates Training, Community Advocates Program, which you may know formerly as the Speakers Bureau, which gets people to speak on panels, at press events, and with elected officials, and more. We also do quite a bit of advocacy and meetings with our elected officials to educate them. We share client stories to educate and inspire the community to better understand this issue from the point of view of those who've experienced it. We also are creating a what to expect at a pantry video for newcomers to be feeling welcomed and informed on how a pantry visit goes. We're translating more materials into other languages to help reach folks that we have not been able to reach before due to language barriers. And we have engaged clients in our research project to better understand how the community would like to receive information and what would be the best format for our Find Food page on our website. Just to give you a visual of the kinds of things that we've been doing in this arena, here's a photo of a listening session at a local pantry, as well as a press conference with state leadership where we had somebody with lived experience talk about the impact on their lives.
This is Jennifer Bertrand, Data and Evaluation Manager at the Food Bank at the Southern Tier. I'll be sharing the community empowerment results from the 2023 survey. Each summer, we survey pantry partners to better understand how they are engaging with clients, what partnerships they are working on to reach underserved populations, and how involved the network is with advocacy and our civic education trainings. This graph shows the changes in client engagement and community partnerships from 2022 to 2023. The blue line shows the most significant improvement in pantries reporting that they actively engage clients for feedback, from 51% last year to nearly 100% this year. Other areas saw small but not statistically significant increases. These areas included sharing volunteer opportunities with clients, which went from 59% of the pantry respondents to 67%, having volunteers who are also clients, which went from 54% to 57%, and pantries reporting partnerships with other organizations to better reach underserved populations, which went from 39% up to 45%. This graph looks more closely at how pantries are actively engaging clients for feedback. There was a statistically significant increase in the percentage of pantries reporting that they have conversations with clients, from only 22% reporting this in 2022 compared to nearly 100% this year in 2023. Other ways of actively engaging clients for feedback were relatively unchanged, including using surveys, comment boxes, and focus groups or listening sessions. Lastly, we asked pantries about their engagement in advocacy activities like contacting elected officials, sharing information through community presentations, and gathering client stories. This saw a small, but not statistically significant decrease from 55% of pantries reporting that they do these activities to 42% in 2023. We also asked about pantry staff and volunteer participation in civic engagement trainings like Hunger 101 and Advocacy 101. This saw a small increase from 46% in 2022 to 50% in 2023, but again, this was not a statistically significant increase.
Thank you, Jen. It's always great to hear about your data and evaluation work. So plans for 2024, we've got community cafes and focus groups. We are doing a spring community advocates training in Tompkins County, and we're going to be working on voter engagement. Very exciting stuff. Now I'm going to hand it off to Jackie Bogart to talk about community empowerment ideas.
Here are some suggestions for client engagement. Offer a suggestion box or other way to gather feedback during pantry hours. Recruit volunteers from current and previous clients. Develop an advisory board to support client-informed decision-making. Offer a feedback session at your agency with clients, offering food and stipends. And last but not least, strengthen communications to clients. This could be as simple as an informal conversation with a client as they go through the process of getting food. Advocacy is essential to addressing hunger. Charity alone cannot solve this problem. Here we have some suggestions for advocacy opportunities. Attend an Advocacy 101 training. I have seen firsthand the positive impact that advocating can have. The Advocacy 101 workshop we offer is geared toward policy advocacy, but can also be useful in many other ways. Respond to action alerts. Meet with elected officials. Put a petition out at your agency. Collect stories for advocacy. Sharing personal stories can be very effective because it personalizes the topic at hand. Promote SNAP. And now, let's hear from Amanda.
And I'm going live, right? Hello, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me okay. So let's talk a little bit about what opportunities we have with the Community Empowerment Impact Grant.
What exactly?
Wait. Here we go.
Thank you.
There you have it.
So what we're looking at is opportunities for folks to create grants that will help fund a budget to market your client communications. How are you getting the word out to folks in your community? You might request some funds to work on those feedback sessions. Word of mouth is great in those interactive conversations when folks are coming in, but if you want something a little bit more robust and want to schedule a meeting and have folks come in and sit down and discuss, that's a great opportunity to request funds for. And also, if you are engaging the work and then time and the energy of a client to become more of a volunteer and you're leveraging their lived expertise, we also can provide funds to offer stipends for their time and commitment. And then the big question mark is, if there's something that isn't falling into one of these buckets, but you know that it's going to fit and you feel passionate about it, apply for it. Talk to us. Sorry about the dog. Talk to us and we'll be happy to review those ideas and even share those out with the network. The grant opens today, right now. So feel free after this webinar is concluded to go in and take a look at how simple the application is and also talk with your team about what makes the most sense for your program.
Thanks,
Sally.
Amanda. Thank you.
Great. So we have some time now for I think questions first, and then any discussion. And we'd love to hear your ideas of what you've already tried so far, how that's gone, what else you might like to try in the community empowerment space in your program. So first of all, I'd just love to hear if anybody has any questions about the material we presented so far. Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat.
How long is the grant open for? What's the window?
Thank you for calling that out, Sarah. So the grant opens today, and we are accepting letters of intent or letters of interest up until December 12th. And then you'll have the rest of that time to complete your application. And we would like to receive all applications when we come back in the new year. So January 2nd.
Excellent. Good question. Any other questions about what we presented so far? Great. Okay. So if anybody has something that they have tried and want to share a successes from that or challenges in the community empowerment space, we could maybe start there. Anything you want to share about what you've done so far? These ideas we're talking about?
Well, we started out real well with this, probably, maybe spring of this year. Our problem now is we are getting inundated with new people, and a big language barrier. So it's taking so long to get them inputted and trying to tell them how we run the pantry and such, that we really, it kind of hindered, the one-on-one contact with people. The other night we had 33 people, of which 10 were new people. Probably 5 of those was a language barrier. So it was hard to get, them set up to go downstairs. So that's been a real problem, of probably the last maybe 3 months.
Okay. Yeah, and we had a question in the chat, Karen, about where you're from. Amanda says you're from the Fairview Food Pantry on the east side of Binghamton. So thanks for sharing that, Karen. Have you thought, I'm sure you have thought about it, have you found any solutions to help with the process, the intake process, given the different primary languages that you see folks coming in speaking?
Well, lately, I've gotten more people to work, and we've revamped the pantry so we can see more clients at one time, getting food in there. And I have asked a few clients to help out, which they have, and that's worked really well. And I guess the best part of it is we let them come a little bit early and get their food. So that's like a plus. It's like you can come at 11:15, get your food, and put it in the other room, and that they really take to, because basically they're cutting the line. So that's like a win-win for both of us.
Sounds like you're doing client engagement in one of the ways that we listed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Couple ways.
Yeah.
We try, like every week we try, but it's a struggle.
Yeah, but including, participants to help with translation is
right. And they usually, a lot of them do seem to it's like a friend bring a friend type thing. So there, a lot of times there is one that can speak better English than, and kind of is the voice box of the maybe 2 or 3 people that she's brought along with her. But we're working at it. I mean, I guess ours is, we just need more people to shuffle people through, so we can get back on asking the questions and building better relationships and seeing what they need and that type of thing.
Yeah, well, it's great. A lot of folks are finding out about your resources. So, Sarah, I saw that you had your hand raised as well. Did you want to share something y'all have been working on?
I've been working on 2 different projects, kind of one at my agency level and then one at the county level. And I think they're both kind of poignant. And now I'm thinking about this impact grant and how I can add stipends or something to the people participating in these projects, which I love paying people for their labor. It's beautiful. So here at the college, so for those of you that don't know, I run the pantry at TC3. So I have a pantry and then a full-fledged closet. And we've been having students come in and kind of put together like little packets that they've made into meals. And then they write out instructions on how to make a meal based on what they've done, which is really interesting to kind of work with them around the language of cooking, which is super cool. And then they're teaching their peers, and everybody's getting involved with what's going on in our pantry. And then they're also getting involved in different cooking techniques that they've never maybe engaged with or seen on TV, and it's been really fun. And then at the county level, I've been working on this historical kind of data gathering around what pantries looked like in, my lifetime, before my lifetime, in like the 70s. And then kind of how the world has changed and how this process has changed and how the dignity of it all has changed. And I think that it's been really interesting to engage with people that have been doing this work for a very long time, and to see in doing this, I've had some people reach out to me and say, this client has been involved with our pantry for X number of years, and I really think you should talk to them too. Because I can't compensate them for their time, I try to do it via email rather than a full-fledged interview. But I'm hoping that we can start piecemealing the historical pantry side with the historical client side, and see how the two sides are seeing the same situation evolve. It's very interesting, very exciting to me. But yeah, I think that talking to people about how they got to where they're at is a really good way for them to let off some steam, and also for you to have the opportunity to sympathize and empathize with them on a level that you wouldn't have if it was just a superficial pleasantry conversation. And I think it's really nice.
That's wonderful, Sarah. That sounds really fascinating, and a nice, fun, creative project. The first one you were talking about too. That's really cool. Can you share how, if there's anything that you've been able to do to make sure you have enough time for those more in-depth conversations, and like, how'd you get here kind of conversations? Because I know a lot of folks will say, we'd love to have more in-depth conversations with clients, but we're just so busy, we can't, it's just a hustle bustle to make sure everyone gets served.
Yeah, so what I have found is best is asking people when they're available, and then making myself available, which isn't always the most convenient way to do it. But if you ask somebody if they have a half an hour at some point throughout the week, chances are they're going to have time to either answer an email or take a phone call or whatever it might be. I do find that depending on the person's age, a phone call is better than an email, and vice versa, right? If I'm talking to college students, they don't really like the phone very much. They like email. So just kind of being willing to switch up the medium depending on who I'm talking to. But realistically, just asking people when they have some availability and then making it work on my end.
So you're
being
asking
flexy.
folks when they're there in flexi, yeah. When they're there in person, you're scheduling, but you're not taking that time when they're there actually like shopping the pantry.
Unless they have the time, right? Like if you have a minute, sure. But I also don't want it to be burdensome to have a conversation with me. So finding people's availability is key.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Sarah. Who else has something that either they have tried and want to share how it went, or, start brainstorming some ideas of, we might want to try this, but we want to hear how others have done it maybe?
I'd like to say something.
Jump in, Jackie.
So I just want to say, several years ago, I went to a focus group in my local pantry, and that changed my life. I was a bit of agoraphobic at the time, and I got there and met some wonderful ladies and from the food bank, and um, um, I was asked about my story and about how I got to where I'm at right now at the time, and I hadn't really been asked that before, and so really made a difference to me, and allowed me to move forward. And 7 years later, I'm working at the food bank, but it made a difference to me and helped me to change my life. And so those little conversations you have with someone can go a very long way. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, you're definitely a testimony to that, Jackie. Thank you. Great. Anything else anybody wants to throw in? Yep, Randy.
Yeah, I think one thing I've kind of learned over the years of starting to engage in this process, and it's just like a lesson, I think, and some of you probably already know this, and it kind of sounds like common sense, but really for folks who have never been offered a chance or opportunity to provide feedback or be involved in something that impacts their lives really deeply, it's new for them. And at first there might be some suspicion, or there might be a lot of negative things that you might start hearing from people. So if you're like, hey, what do you think about this? Or how do you think about these different programs? And people have opinions. And a lot of times the more stuff that it might be hard to hear, like might say, this thing doesn't work for me, or this program isn't the best. And it's important for us when we start hearing that feedback to not really internalize that, to understand that we're asking for feedback, we're getting honest feedback. And usually people just need to get that out. And it reminded me of Sarah, of what you're saying of, I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but that's like blow off some steam or something, how you said, or vent. And to not take that personally. And usually once people have that space to be like, oh, this thing kind of sucks, or it doesn't work for me, but then the ideas and the solutions start to emerge. But they kind of need to get that out. And then if you keep holding that space and you keep doing that deep listening or asking for more solutions or feedback, then you get all these ideas that will say, what would work much better is this. So I just want to caution, if you start this work, or if you're starting to get feedback and you hear stuff that kind of is hard to hear at the beginning, to just keep leaning in, and then the ideas and improvements will come. So I feel like it's almost like this process that I've seen in many, many places. And for me personally, I know sometimes I get negative feedback and I just don't want to hear it, or I take it personally, or I'm like, well, people don't understand my limitations or any of that. So it's just something I want to share. Like if I ever was going to write a book about what I've learned at the food bank, that's like a big chapter. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. When Randy and I kind of started up more intentional work in this space at the food bank, back in 2015, we got a lot of that, and we were a little taken aback until we realized the lesson Randy just shared. So word to the wise. Anything else? All right. Well, feel free to keep reaching out to us with you have any ideas or questions about how to do this, how to start, how to keep going wherever you're at. You can email us as always at programs@foodbankst.org, or talk with your PPC, and feel free to get in touch with Jackie or myself as well. Our contact info is on the website as well. So we really appreciate your time being on here today and chatting about these topics with us and learning some more. And hope you have a great rest of your day.